Hello, my name is Dr. Dan Wedding, and this is DrWedding VB22-A. VB, controlling an Arduino using the programming cable. Most of the viewers who watched my VB22 video did so in order to communicate with an Arduino, pickaxe, or some other microcontroller. Now that I have covered the VB code, I have included these 7 bonus videos to help you get started working with the COM ports. Please review the video that matches your hardware. These videos will have 4 parts. There will be a diagram of the hardware configuration with a parts list under it, and there will be a brief description of the hardware. There is a copy of the firmware that is used to program the microcontroller, and there will be a brief explanation of the firmware. There is a copy of the Visual Basic code that will be used to open the port and control the circuit. To learn more about the VB code, please watch DrWedding VB22. A working demonstration is shown at the end of the video. A diagram of the circuit is shown below. An external power supply is supplying the voltage for the circuit. It is not being powered by the USB cable. The 4 LEDs are connected to A0 through A3. The keypad is connected to pins D6 through D13, where D6 through D9 are inputs and D10 through D13 are outputs. Communications between the VB program and the Arduino is being done through the USB programming cable that is connected to the USB to TTL UART that is built into the Arduino. The Arduino code will receive the data from VB and toggle the selected LEDs. It will also transmit the value on the keypad to VB when a button is pressed. This section of code will create 3 variables. The variable once will act as a boolean to limit the number of times the keypad character is sent to VB. The variable kval will hold the ASCII character printed on the keypad. Lastly, the variable inchar will hold the ASCII character sent from the VB program. The next section of code assigns the pins as inputs or outputs and sets them to their default values. The last line sets up the internal UART of the Arduino. The main loop is doing 2 jobs. The main loop checks to see if anything was received from VB. If a character was received, the subroutine mail call is called to parse the data. Then, the main scans the keypad to see if a button is being pressed. If a button was pressed, the character is transmitted to the VB program. The subroutine mail call will run the character through an if block that will toggle the selected LED. After the character has been used, it is set back to a blank space. This is what the Arduino program uses for nothing new received. There's probably a library for this, but I like to write my own code. The scan keypad subroutine sets the variable kval to Z. Then it sets the pin connected to the first column to ground. Then the 4 rows are looked at one at a time. If a row is high, the button is not pressed. If the row is low, the button is pressed and kval is set to the value printed on the button. This process is repeated for the second column, and the third column, and the 4th column. Because the microcontroller runs at 16 MHz, it will run this subroutine multiple times per second. You only want the character to be sent to VB 1 time per press. This if block will transmit the character once, then ignores the key press until the human lifts their finger off the button. Then the if resets, so it can send the next character. This subroutine is executed every time something happens with the UART. If that event was an incoming character, read it in and store it in the variable inchar. The Visual Basic code used in this demonstration is an updated version of the code found in VB22. Below is the form and the names of the objects used in the VB code. A text version of the code associated with this form is found in the description below. The form and the code were explained in DrWedding VB22. The program in this link has a few minor updates from the version in that video. Some of these updates include: phones that are plugged into the computer will not appear on the combo box. A refresh button has been added, so COM ports can be added to the system while the program is running. If no COM port is found, the connect button is not visible. The if serial port 1 is open if block was moved to the top of the button connect subroutine. This allowed the program to select a new COM port while the program is running. This is useful when connecting to an HC05 Bluetooth module. A do while serial port 1 bytes to read is greater than 0 loop was added to the serial port 1 data received subroutine. This helps speed up and prevent lost characters when using an HC05 Bluetooth module. This demonstration will show you how to connect your Visual Basic project to an Arduino using the programming cable. I have already powered up the circuit and Visual Basic has found the cable on port 18. Now I can connect to port 18 to control the Arduino. I have 4 buttons. Each one controls one LED on the board. And I have a keypad. When I press a button, it will send the character printed on the button to the VB program and display it on the text box. When I update the text box using the keypad, I don't get an illegal cross-thread error. Hopefully, this video will give you a good idea of how to set up bidirectional communications between Visual Basic and an Arduino using just the programming cable. If you find these videos useful, please like and subscribe. It is the only way I can continue to make these videos.